Alan, welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Alex, meet Alan. Do you know each other?
We do.
We do.
Where have you crossed paths? It doesn't surprise me, but tell us.
So, I mean, I was introduced to Alan through a mutual friend of ours, Tom, and we were going to have I think we were going to have a Zoom call at some point last year, and I saw on Alan's website that he does these epic walking meetings, and I was like, wow, I want to go on a walking meeting instead of a Zoom call and meet you in real life. And he was very up for that and took me on this absolutely beautiful walk around the fields around his house. And as you're going to hear all about his new work, there was no better way to think and learn about regenerative business than by doing it in nature. So I was really inspired after our conversation.
Fantastic. Oh, that is a good link. Well, listen, Alan, you've joined us off the back of at the end of this session, but it's so great you could join this session. We are at Rebel Book Club big fans of the Do lectures. Ben, who's my co-pilot at RBC, has been to it and propped up the bar in the barn with the rest of the tribe out there. And so the Do Book Company and Rebel Book, we've been trying to find a way where we can go, well, because all the books, the guides to all aspects of life and work that have been published over the last few years are books that I know our community love. And so it's great to find you, the author of the latest Do book, Do Build, and get you in the room at least for a few minutes tonight. And maybe we can have some more conversation down the line. But for those that don't know yourself or don't know what the Do Book series is about, let us know about it and also what this new book Do Build is all about.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me on, and Alex, so great to see you again after such a long time. And yes, we did actually have a wonderful walk together, and you're welcome to come back anytime you'd like, once we're allowed to do that. And Ben, thank you so much for asking me to be here. I mean, the Do Book Co. essentially, they are books which are published by people that go and give a talk at the Do lectures. That's your qualification into that space. Mine was actually in 2009, a very long time ago. And David and I have known each other for a very long time, but essentially the principle is doers that do things inspire others to go and do the stuff that we need to bring into this world. And I would just also like to say here, Miranda, who's the publisher of the Do Book Company, she's sadly not with us this evening, but is an amazing publisher and a fantastic person. I feel very privileged to have her, on my side, I would say. So the latest book, Do Build, How to Make and Lead a Business the World Needs, perhaps arrives at a time which it feels kind of right to me. And I don't know how much time we got. So, but essentially what I'm saying is that in this book, the précis is now is the moment of opportunity. Business can do good. It can remake our world and seek the good and manifest it in all that we create. And that if we are going to build a future worth living in for all of us, we've got to try and achieve this equilibrium, and that's a really important word for me, between our economy, our ecology, and our societies stroke communities. And in the book, I suppose what I'm saying is that we need to reimagine the very purpose of business. Although it's the wrong caveat. I think Alex's work around the pirate stuff and her words and message, I think, are very important, because in a sense, when I read the first book that Sam wrote and we met, he really spoke to me in terms of this idea about innovation and culture and purpose and all of those things that needed to happen for actually, I think, a greater good. And that's the counterintuitive part of the Be More Pirate thing, which is actually, there's a lot of really good stuff that is coming out of this. And when I read that book, it really spoke to me. And so I think the book, Do Build, is, I talk about the need for businesses to be beautiful. Obviously, that's a sort of a bit of unpacking that needs to go on there, other than to say that it's more than aesthetics, it's multidimensional. And I think that beauty is a fundamental part of us as human beings in so many myriad ways. That's so important. I would say actually beauty is our homecoming, and it calls us to go home to that place. And the root word of beauty in my mind is the concept of regeneration. Nature has run the longest R&D project we have ever known, I think. And cosmically, or on our wonderful blue planet, has kind of worked out how to hang around for a while. And one of the principal rules of that operating system is that it creates the conditions for all life to thrive in diversity. And in a sense, the core of my book is saying that if we want to stay around for an eternity, if we want to bring the good into the world, a moral framework, which I also bring based on Iris Murdoch's work, then we have to really think about that concept of regeneration. And that is what we need to put our minds and our work to as a consequence of that.
I love this pitch, Alan. It's so refreshing in the world of, just like Pirate in a completely different way, in the world of purposeful business. And I remember Sam saying, in fact, that when he started writing, he had a publishing deal, didn't he, to write a book on purposeful business. And he was 5 chapters in, and he was boring himself silly with what he's writing, and he needed to find a different way of telling the story. And then he found Pirates, and the rest is history, as we've been hearing. But I love this idea of like using nature as your R&D department as an inspiration to like think about regeneration and beauty being at the heart of business building, which feels like a paradox in some way. There's so much to talk about, and we haven't got time tonight, but a couple of teasers here maybe. If we bring it down from that level, that beautiful pitch that you've just shared, to the tangibles of, and maybe there's some of these that are in the book.
Yeah. Like
how we apply this on a day-to-day basis. And we've got a room here full of entrepreneurs and people who have influence in bigger organizations. Is there, are you like, here's a brand new toolkit, or is it a mindset, or what is it that you're offering?
It's both. I mean, I think you have to have a philosophical frame. My background is as a maker and as a designer for a large part of my life. I'm very used to working with all sorts of tools. My point is always, when you pick a tool up, it doesn't matter what it is, unless you have a philosophical frame in terms of what it is you're trying to achieve, then you will not use that tool to its greatest effectiveness. So here's some things I would say to the people that are listening in. Does it matter? When you're going to make something, does it matter to the world? Does it matter to me? Does it matter to my team? Does it matter to the community that I'm working on? If I listen to the 2 people that spoke earlier outside of Alexandra, then that is really what they were talking about, the mattering. It really matters to them. Are you creating legacy? Are you going to be a good ancestor? Are you going to bring something into this world that is regenerative, which takes us beyond the concept and language of sustainability, which I think is a cul-de-sac and limiting? Are you going to bring something into this world that is transformational, which is connected to this idea of bringing the good into the world? You are in service to all. You know, if you're in business to make money, you are not in business as far as I'm concerned. Is it useful? What is the utility that you're going to bring that is going to be great? What contribution am I making to the people and the planet? And to me, these are things that are absolutely important. And I think circling back on the piracy thing is, be unreasonable when you ask those questions. Do not sit in the place of being comfortable and saying, well, I can only do this and I can do that. Step out of that paradigm and be really unreasonable in asking those questions and what it is you can bring to the world, because it is a collective action. Ultimately, it's, I would say, individually, we make a choice in terms of where we put ourselves into this world. I made that choice. Alex has made that choice. Sam has made that choice. You've made that choice in your own way. as well as Tej and the other lady's name now is escaping me.
Dina,
I apologise. But they've all done those things. Be lovingly disruptive is something that I really like as a concept. And if you want to change everything, you have to take everyone with you. And I think that in a sense of the idea of, if you're on a pirate ship, you've got to actually participate together. You've got to agree on the outcomes that you want. You've got to understand that everyone has got your back, everyone believes, and everybody trusts. And these are the fundamental principles and ideas, I think, that is how Alex and I kind of connected when we met and we walked and we talked and all the rest of it. And what is in Do Build, which is... There it is. This evening. It's a huge 20,000 words, so it'll exhaust you. Yeah, that's my story, and that's what's really important to me.
Oh, Alan, it's fantastic to hear. I feel like I'm listening to a sort of humanist business thought for the day on Radio 4, or like the kind of, or like this is a sermon that I would go to church for. It's really great. So I've got one question for you, sure, Alan, and then one for both of you, Alex, to wrap up. Taking this wonderful philosophical view of how we could regenerate and make things better. Like who's out there doing, or what brands are out there that are doing it now that you're like, here's a great example of someone or an organization that's doing it really well, or do they not yet exist?
No, they do, and in the book, actually, I list 49 businesses in the back as an appendix, which I've looked at over 10 years. It's 49 because the 50th one is you. What are you going to do? Because I'd like to write your name on that 50th line. But they go from countries, New Zealand, because actually administering a country is a business. So you're in business of running a country. And the reason why they're there is because one of their key policies is looking at well-being as terms of how the country moves forward. Other companies too, I will mention Climeworks, which actually is building machines to extract the 10 billion tons of CO2 out of the atmosphere, the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. We need to do that every year in, year out. And that's a really important story for me in terms of what they've done and how they've done it. And the things I talked about, the mattering, the legacy, the ancestry, regeneration, transformation, use of wood, its contribution,
ticks everything.
Is there for these guys, right? And they are mission driven. And Veya, which is the sneaker brand, is another company that I talk about. You know, they also started off wanting to be an NGO, just trying to help people say that don't do this and don't do that. And they realized that actually that was all CSR, it was greenwashing for the companies that they were trying to serve. And they said, we are merchant bankers and we are going to create a sneaker brand because the generation that we are part of all wear sneakers, and everyone could wear a sneaker that was regenerative in the way that it was made and built, respected human rights, the planet, you know, all of those things. Then actually we send a message to the rest of the world that you can be part of that change.
Yeah.
And they are, I think, and just some very brief examples of businesses which are out there. And there is a huge desire, I see, collectively, outside of what the media chooses to, you know, represent to us every day, of people that really, really want that transformational change. They're hungry for it and they're prepared to work for it and fight for it.
It's so great to hear those examples, and not just businesses, but also countries, and because of course we can all try and build businesses that are regenerative, but that takes a long time, and we need to make change faster. That last example, by the way, of sequester, taking carbon out of the atmosphere at scale, reminds me of one of my sort of role model entrepreneur heroes, who's a classic pirate. He's a guy, and he's just got a book out. I'm going to make one more recommendation tonight. It's called Dale Vince. He started a company called Ecotricity. So he was one of the kind of new age travelers of the 80s. He was a dropout from school, and and then he was on the road traveling for a decade, and then he was fiddling with engines and then wind turbines, and he built a wind turbine on a hill in Stroud, built the first green energy company in the UK called Ecotricity. There's now obviously a lot of them. Has bought a football club and turned it vegan, Forest Green Rovers, first in the world, and is now taking carbon out of the atmosphere and making diamonds out of it, because that's the most carbon intensive thing you can make, and is trying to change the diamond trade. So in terms of an example, kind of pirate slash regenerative entrepreneur, Dale Vince is a good one. If you haven't come across him, anyone's watching. Andy's just asking really quickly, what was the sneaker make?
Veya. Shall I write it in the chat?
Yeah, drop it in the chat. That would be great. And then my last question to you both is, you can have two people here, but who would you put in charge of, like, imagine the two most powerful positions in the world, whatever they might be, presidential or corporate CEO, you know, whether it's in charge of Amazon or in charge of America or China, whatever it is, like who would be the people that you'd say I mean, we just heard from a couple of fantastic people, and yourselves included, but who would you say, this is someone that I think could really accelerate change if they got into a serious position of power in the way that we want to see it? Alex.
Well, two answers to this. I think I've thought about it a little bit, but first of all, I don't think that one or two people should be in charge. Just want to put that out there. That is part of the problem. This idea of grand leadership and world leadership, distribute power. But if I had to choose some people, I was thinking earlier that there's a sort of, I guess, a writing power couple that I love, Priya Parker and Anand Giridharadas, who wrote... Are
they a couple?
Pardon?
They're not a couple. Are you...
Yes.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're married.
I thought there was only Amanda and Neil. Like, I thought they Palmer and Gaiman. I thought they were the only power couple in the writing world. Priya Parker and...
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That makes sense, right? In terms of their missions. Yeah. Well, so we read Priya's book in January.
Yeah.
The Art of Gathering.
So you have someone who knows how to bring people together, which is so important, and do it with conflict resolution. And you'd also have someone who gets inequality on a really detailed level. So those things that just hit it for me. So and they'd obviously work together quite well. So I assume. So I'm big fans of both.
That's such a great example. I love the fact they're a couple. I also found another power writing couple. So we were chatting we were really lucky to host Kate Rayworth, author of Donut Economics. Wow. And I was chatting away, and I actually said to her, "Oh, a lot of your work reminds me of someone else I really admire, a guy called Roman Krchanik, whose School of Life, very aligned to the Do Books and Do Lectures world and your work. And of course, they're married and all live together. And he's just put out this brilliant book called The Good Ancestor, which overlaps with the themes you've just mentioned, Alan.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe we just put all the talented writing couples in charge. And Kate is doing an amazing work in changing things.
Oh yeah. Maybe I'd choose her. I don't know. Yeah, she's yeah.
Alan, do you have any to add to that list?
Well, actually, I would suggest that Mariana Mazzucato, as another economist, is very, very, very important. She writes obviously about the macro kind of perspective of how state can play a really important role, and her work, the book The Mission Economy, is very important. I mean I felt really challenged with if I was going to choose two people, and actually I don't really want to, because what I want to say is this: it's down to every single one of you. Every single one of you have to wake up in the morning, and you have to have agency, and you have to have accountability, and you have to have responsibility. And unfortunately, in our world that we have created, or some that have created, in a sense, actually, what they're trying to do is to say we don't have agency. I mean, this thing has gone on for millennia, right? I mean, I think about Peterloo in terms of a UK historical perspective of people protesting about their rights and being massacred, 250 years ago and some change. I think about all the times when people just ask for a decent roof over their head, food on the table, the right for sovereignty to move through this world. You know, Tej so powerfully spoke about how you give that to kids and children. And if anyone had a brain cell in government at the moment, what they would understand is by releasing the full potential of every child in this country in a generation, that cohort would leapfrog the world in terms of their intelligence, their creative ability, and their ambition. And I can't understand why people don't understand why that is not important. And the reason why I feel so passionately about that is because I have 3 children who are all profoundly dyslexic, more than me. And you know, I fell victim to the idea that I had to try and put my kids through the processing machine to actually get them out the other side. And you know, we got one through, and the others, it just didn't work. And so there's someone driving a Ferrari because of me, right? But the reality is my kids have not been served as a consequence of that. Whereas I wish I'd met Tej, you know, years ago, or people like him that would actually do that, because to me, that's the most important thing. I feel that I'm in touch with the potential that I can bring into the world because I've fought for it over a very long period of time. I know Alex has done the same. Why aren't we doing that? And that's a question that I would ask people. So it's all about your personal agency. Whatever it is that you do on a small scale, huge scale, it doesn't matter. We can all bring that good into the world. And that to me is absolutely fundamental to what comes next.
Awesome. Well, this is what we try and do a little bit at Rebel Book Club, is learn something new or learn more about what we care about. And your 2 books are perfect for that. So, and then come together and talk about it and try and activate it. So we will share a roundup of this conversation with our wider community and gather some more thoughts and questions and ideas and share them back with you both. But Alex, thank you so much for not just joining us tonight, but your transformation career-wise, because you're now transforming others to empower them. And the story of piracy is just so perfect because it just opens the conversation in a way that 100 purposeful business conversations don't. And when they're tired of talking about Simon Sinek's why, how, what, this is a much more exciting way to do it. And Alan, I love this sort of philosophical framework for thinking about business. It's really like combining sort of beauty and spirit with like the doing the real work is really powerful framing. So thank you for sharing that with us tonight and for writing Do Build, and we'll promote it as much as we can.
Thank you very much.
We're going to jump off now and let these good people who've stuck with us this evening on a Tuesday evening online. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and Tej and Dina especially, and Emily for producing the session. And our next Rebel Book Club is on the 30th of March with Alex Suchong Kim Pang, who's the author of Rest, which is a great read. It basically tells you to lie down more and how that's going to make life better, which is what we all need to hear, right? So join us for that, and lots more coming up in the next couple of months. But thank you, Alex. Thanks, Alan. Take care.
You're welcome.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.